Hello, guys. Welcome to Messages from the Light. Okay. Are you guys hearing us?
I'll talk too, so you can make sure you hear me
Hello,
too.
guys. Oh, I have to turn on my laptop.
Oh. I can hear you twice.
You can hear me. Okay. I know, right? Oh my goodness. Are you guys hearing us? Ali Angel. Okay, good. Perfect. Hey, Mary. Hey, Ari. Justin. Oh, welcome. Welcome, guys. I'm so happy that you guys are here.
Me too.
Hey, Chappelle. So we have the usual suspects, and then we have some new people too. I think your energy drew them in, Jody, because some of these people I don't know. This
Oh,
is
nice.
yeah, very interesting. Hello. Hey, Meg. Naomi. Welcome, everyone. Fire Chica, how are you? Oh my goodness. Earthlings Unscripted. I like that.
I do too.
I know, right? Oh, Seattle. Very nice. Beautiful. And people are still coming in.
hmm
Um, hey, Kayla. Guys, welcome to Messages from the Light. So some of you were here the last time when Jody was on, and some of you guys are definitely new. I'm not recognizing some names right now. So we're gonna allow Jody to just reintroduce herself, and after she does the reintroduction, we're gonna go into Messages from the Light. Now, um, Jody does not channel through her guides, and maybe she's going to talk a little bit about that, how she channels and how she works. And the kind of readings that she gives is not how is he feeling about me? What is he going to do? It's not that. It's messages for the path forward. It's for growth. It's for healing, and whatever needs to come through from the light for you. So I'm just going to hand it over to Jody. She's going to talk a little bit about herself and how her messages come through and her process for channeling and her connections to the light.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. This community is so gorgeous and so generous, and had such a great time last time. So it's really nice to be here again with you guys. Um, My name is Jody. I am the person behind the Devic Connection, and the Devic Connection is my body of work that I feel called to bring through, which has a lot to do with the Devic realm, which is the realm of the nature beings and our animal friends and plant spirits and all of that. So I started like talking to trees, I don't know, a bunch of years ago, and kind of wondering like what is this that's happening to me. And it sort of set me down a really interesting spiritual path that made me feel much more connected and made me feel more and more like I had a job to do to help other people find their own connection through this realm and be able to help those beings of light in that realm ground their energy here so that they can be more effective and efficient co-creators with us. So then, I started training to do psychic readings. So my spiritual path really, really got deeper from there. And as Made for Love said, I have guides that assist me with my own, like sort of interpersonal dealings and any of my own like dramas that I have because I'm a human being. And you'd like what just happened here, and the way I tune in for myself is typically through automatic writing. So I get grounded, I get the light, and then I ask the light or my guides for, I just ask them questions and write down whatever I get. But for other people, when I do a reading, it feels important to get as few lenses in between the information and the person as possible. So I was trained to tune right into the light, which I say is my soul's connection to source. And that's a chat with your soul's connection to source. And one of the things that, as was mentioned, I don't usually get very satisfying answers for questions about, like, what does this other person think? What are they feeling about me? How, is this relationship progressing or anything? I might get progressing, but where is it going? That one might not be a very satisfying answer, because the light almost always turns the question back on the asker and gives all sorts of advice about how you focus inward, how you
Yes.
focus on your own self-healing, what you need to do to be the person that you want to be. And so that's why it's really interesting the way the light always brings that back around. So I do have that clarification even on my website. Is like, if that's what you're looking for, there's a lot of people who are very good at getting that information, and I'm not one of them. It just never comes through the way people want it to. And I always feel like, oh, I'm sorry, So yeah, so that's a little bit about my work. Did that kind of, was that a good introduction? I don't know.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And I always love it when you explain about how you channel, because it always brings into focus what some people don't realize. All guides are disincarnate beings,
Yeah.
but they're just like us. They're on their own journey of evolution. So they don't have all the answers. It's a co-creation between us and them. And
Yeah.
as they help us, we help them evolve, grow. So they don't do know a lot, but they're also learning a lot of stuff from us.
Yeah.
Like I remember I was teaching SRT class last month, and one of the guys that came through to help with
Mhm.
SRT, help this girl, this student with SRT.
Mhm.
He had never done SRT before,
Yeah.
and he said he had never seen a twin flame ring. So it was a learning process for him. His name was Freddie, and it
Yeah.
was just such a beautiful experience because it really brought into to focus. They are really learning. They're learning on this
Mhm.
journey as well. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate that you brought that point forward.
Yeah.
um exactly. And then I liked how you talked about, automatic writing as a tool
Mm.
for self-discovery, and also to develop your psychic gifts and to channel messages for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because as you said, it always goes back to the viewers. We like to look outside of ourselves for a lot of the answers, but
Mm.
the answer, we know the answers. We are the expert
Yeah.
on ourselves.
Yeah, and
On
how
ourselves
often in a reading do you have someone come back and say, "Well, I knew all of that, but it was really
all
important
the time.
confirmation." It's like, of
All the time
course,
they're coming for
because
confirmation,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And even when we reach out to each other, it's like, can you let me know what you're
Yeah.
getting, because I'm
It's
not
always
sure about this.
confirmation.
Yeah.
Exactly. We have the answers. We know. It's always
Yeah.
confirmation.
Yeah. And
Fire
that's, I
Chica,
think,
1 second, 1 second,
yeah.
Jody. One moment. Fire Chica SRT, Spirit Release Therapy,
Mm.
and the Twin Flame Ring is the 5D or energetic representation of your twin flame connection. You can go ahead, Jody. Sorry about that.
You know what? I don't remember
Yeah.
what I was going to say.
Oh gosh.
It
It will
just
come
slips
back.
in and slips out because, that's how it works. As
It
soon
will
as
come back.
I was like, "Oh, that's gone," but it must not have needed to be said out loud. You guys got the
Yeah.
energy.
Oh, we were talking about confirmation, and
Yeah,
we have the answers within. It's gonna come back, Jody.
yeah, yeah. And I
So,
think too, one
mhm,
of the things that is so interesting, because, I say that what I do is a type of soul reading. And so, of
yeah.
course, the messages from your soul are going to resonate for you in a way that is so personal. And so,
Yes.
and I guess I think that if I'm doing my job right, it should be
Yes.
really confirming with what you already know, but need to
Yes.
hear framed or contextualized in a different way, or just need
Correct.
a clear energetic communication. I think too, a
Yes.
lot of times what we're doing in readings is just taking a bundle of bunched up energy and helping people sort it out. So I sometimes
Yeah.
see it as like a ball of yarn. I crochet, so I'm often like ending up with a mess of yarn that I have to
Yes.
then like very patiently. And luckily that's one of the things I don't mind doing, is sitting and doing a really like annoying task that
Yeah.
takes a long time. So, you take the yarn and you unknot it bit by bit by bit. And I feel like that's what we do for each other when we tune in for each other, is we take this big bunch of energy that's all
Yeah.
knotted up, and we just sort of help sort it out, create space, let the energy move through it, and
Yeah.
hopefully get a flow going where maybe there were some blockages before.
Yeah. That makes so much sense. It
Yeah.
really does. The last time you were on, you had just finished a book,
Yeah.
and here's my copy with
Yay.
my message from the light. Thank you
Yay.
very much.
Thank
It
you
was so
so
very
much.
sweet. Thank you. But I understand that you're writing another book. So tell us about that one.
I am. So it's a continuation. It's volume 2 of the Journal of the Spiritual Seeker. And right now I'm writing it and putting it out on Patreon. I just started a Patreon community, so that's
Hmm.
out there and it's getting going. But I decided that I wanted to form a little community for some community group work and everything like that, and that
Hmm.
that was the place to share volume 2 as I write it. And
Yes.
so I've got some of the entries written so far. And it's interesting because this volume goes deeper into some past lives I was examining at the time. It
Yes.
goes into a lot of healing around some really interesting um, experiences I was having with other beings that are human, incarnate, but weren't happening in 3D, which I think is really will be an interesting exploration for this community, because that is a big part of the twin journey, is what's
Yes.
happening in 3D versus what's happening in 5D. The ways that we experience our relationships with other people, that maybe we don't even know them, maybe we don't
Yes.
even communicate with them in 3D anymore. Like, how often do you think of an old friend and have your heart kind of lift and know that there's some sort of energetic exchange happening that they might not be aware of? So that was happening a lot at the time that I was writing, that I was channeling the messages that will be volume 2. So
Yes.
stuff like that, it goes into a different, it's different than volume 1. Volume 1 was very much my first foray into the automatic writing and into my own sort of interpersonal healing. There's still lots of that, but this does take on a whole different part of my healing. And like a section of it will be around a collection of past lives that were really blocking me at the time.
Yes.
And those past lives had a lot to do with doing work in those lives that maybe went wrong. And so I really needed to deal with some of those energies before I could do this work, because I was really having a hard time knowing what to do. Like, okay, so I know that I've got messages to share. I know that I'm meant to share them. So this was back in early 2018 when I was channeling these messages. And I was just stuck. I just couldn't go forward. I was like, I couldn't build a website. I couldn't start, a channel or anything like that. I just didn't even know. So I had to work through those old energies before I could get to where I am now, where I could even begin to talk about it. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. And
Yeah.
Jody, this is why I love having you on, because the light always shares with us what we need to hear. Just
Yeah.
before you launched into past lives and all that,
Uh-huh.
bam, we got a question from Cara Jean, right? Asking if let me get the actual question. And I
Okay.
wrote it down to ask you.
Yeah.
And then bam, you launched right into
I love
past
that.
lives. Says
Yeah.
I feel like learn about my past lives will be helpful. What do you ladies feel about that? And then bam,
Oh,
you just
yeah.
launched into you just launched into it.
The light
It's
is
just so
amazing that
crazy.
way. It really is.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah. I find, to answer that question, I find that past life work is one of the most healing things that I have experience. Like, it's
Yes.
amazing that you can have such a blockage. You know that there's something that is holding you back. You know that
Yes.
you are experiencing things out of proportion with what's happening in 3D. You know
Yes.
that it has something to do with something you don't have context for. And then you get the information about a past life and it's like unlocked. It's like
Makes
instantaneous. At
sense.
least that's been for me. It's like I
Yeah.
hear the information and it's like everything starts to, those knots start to unravel and the space clears and you go, oh, well, of course I feel like that about that person who isn't actually that much of a big part of my 3D life, but is such a
Yes.
huge part of my energetic life. Well, because we were connected in this way in this past life or had this tragic death together. How many times does it have to be a tragic death, really? But those are the things we carry because they're the traumas. The same way that we carry the our trauma in our physical bodies from this current
Yes.
incarnation. We carry the energetic trauma of our past experiences in our energetic bodies. So as soon as you get that information, it can be like turning a key in a lock to a door that you've been beating your head against for your whole lifetime. So
Exactly.
I have had such great insights from learning more about my past lives, definitely.
I feel so as well. It's like everything,
Mhm.
as you said, the pieces of the puzzle like fall into place. And people often say, I've been going to therapy for 20 something years,
Yeah.
but it's a past life exploration that made everything make sense. And then, as you said, something is just unlocked.
Yeah, it
Something is
does.
just unlocked because the therapist, especially one that's not spiritual, they're focusing on the personality, which we know
Yeah.
is a mask anyway.
Yeah.
The real trauma is transpersonal above the personality.
Mm,
And that's why readings, past life exploration,
yeah.
and these kind of intuitive, as you said, those soul readings are so
Yeah.
important because they get to the root of the issue, and the root of the issue may not be in this life.
Yeah. I think oftentimes it's not. And,
It's not.
I love talk therapy and I love doing the work on my, like psychological well being and my personality well being. I love that
Yes,
stuff too.
it
But
is. It's
it's
helpful.
holistic, right? It needs to be
Yes,
holistic.
it needs to be holistic.
Yeah. Especially if you're on a spiritual journey, which you wouldn't be here if you weren't. So,
Yes.
you know, it's essential that we develop and develop our tool chest of
Yes.
how we cope and how we manage because the spiritual journey as it expands gets weirder and weirder. you know
It's true.
I
It's true.
It's true. I don't know how else to say it. It came out like that and I was like, well, it's the nature of it, but it also gets more and more wonderful and more exciting and much much more expansive. So how do you cope with the balance of I'm still living a 3D existence, I'm still
Yes.
here, I still have to manage like the physical, and
Yes.
also I'm having all of these really exciting expansive awareness raising experiences that I don't necessarily know how to deal with. Well, then you develop your coping mechanisms, your tools, your toolbox for that.
Yes. Um, Jody, we're getting a question coming through
Okay.
from Fire Chica 1111, and she's asking both of us, and you can go first. How did you figure out what was your gift that you had to share with the collective? How did you figure that out?
Hmm. Well, I was really lucky because when I was going through a really hard time, I had a reading with an old friend who offered to train me.
Yeah.
And I had been tuning in for a friend, and just like realized I was kind of had always been tuning in for people
Yes.
without really knowing what I was
Knowing that you're
doing.
tuning in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just finding words flowing out of my mouth that were comforting to them, that were what they needed to hear, and being like, I don't know where that came from, but here we go. This is so outside the realm of my own experience, but somehow I know what to say. And so I had this reading, and this friend offered to train me because she said I could do readings, and I was shocked. I couldn't believe that that was true, but I trusted her.
Yes.
So, it was an evolution from there. I also have a collection of chronic illnesses that has made it so that I can't really work outside the home. So this was a
Right.
way for me to be able to have a job that I could do. And then I was always deeply connected to the Devic realm. I knew that.
Yes.
So for me, it all fit together and the flow started to happen and the messages started to come to share with people. Does that answer the question? It just sort of it happened very organically. It wasn't just like a wake up one day and have a big like a some sort of awakening experience. It's just a step by step opening process.
Yes. I found that as well. It is an evolution. And
Yeah.
when you finally get to, I wouldn't say the pinnacle because we're ever evolving, but when you really
Mhm.
are working for the collective, you
Yeah.
realize and know everything that has happened to you, everything has prepared you for this moment and this work that
Mhm.
you're doing.
Yeah.
Because I do a lot of life purpose readings, and I
Mhm.
always tell people, your life purpose and you'll find out your gifts like an amalgamation of several different things. Like
Mhm.
one, your inherent talents. These are the things that you got from the light.
Yeah.
Okay, I always knew, even though I didn't have a word for it because I grew up very religious, that I was a medium,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And my parents, even though my father was also a medium, pretended like I was crazy and I was seeing
Yeah.
things. And in fact, my siblings used to call me Ghostbusters because
Yeah.
because I was always talking about these experiences that I was having and these spirits reaching out and touching me and that kind of thing, anointing my forehead. It was just crazy.
Yeah.
And they all thought that I was nuts. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have those inherent talents.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you have the skills that you kind of pick up along the way in life.
Mhm.
Maybe learning how to deal with people, effective communication skills, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Then you have your passions, the things that really fire you up. I was
Yeah.
always passionate about religion and spirituality,
Yeah.
and also about love. And then,
Mhm.
we have the things that we find ourselves doing on a day to day basis. So, just like you, I realized now I had always been tuning in and
Yeah.
tuning in for others, but you just didn't know. You didn't know that's what it was.
Yeah.
And then the other component is um, your life experiences.
Mhm.
Every single thing that you've been through, the good, the bad, the ugly, the horrible, the things that you thought you'd die from,
Yeah.
they're all preparing you for that moment when you step onto the soul path.
Mhm.
But I think it really opened up for me, and I really realized what my gifts were, and acceptance of myself when I got connected to my guides, quite frankly.
Mhm.
They were the ones that were training me and nudging me, okay, do this. You
Mhm.
know what, why don't you try and see if you can go and connect to the akasha? Why don't you see if you can read tarot cards? And they're just giving
Yeah.
you little nudges, little hints, and then you realize, wait a minute, I'm infinite,
Yeah.
I'm limitless, there's nothing that I cannot do. Actually, I just have to find something that I enjoy doing, and that's how it just kind of evolved.
Mhm. Yeah. And did you find too, because this was interesting for me, I had a lot of set ideas about what I wanted to do with my life, and this was not one
Yes.
of them.
Not at all. Okay. I was going to be a lawyer. Okay.
Oh, yes, you would be a great lawyer.
The light had other ideas.
Yep. Yep.
The light had
Mhm.
other ideas.
Mhm.
So it
Yeah.
all evolves, and then you realize this is me. This is truly who I am.
Yeah.
Authentically, this is me. Okay. I
Yeah.
can't imagine doing anything else. This is me. And you know what? There's still more to uncover.
Yes, because the more, and this is one of the things that my guides have told me over and over and over again, and even just yesterday, I think, like stop focusing on outcomes, just be present, move forward, put one foot in front of the other, and don't think about where you're going to end up because there's no end. There is no ending up. Um, there's no like achievement, there's no accomplishment. It's all just every step forward is the opening for the next step. So
Yeah.
it's like you said, I forget how you said it, maybe no pinnacle or no There's no end point.
No.
It's just a continued expansive evolution, and each step, and as soon as we think we know where we're going, we close off the energy of discovery. So it's like I get,
Yes.
and I'm the one of the worst at this. I just like I get so fixed on what I think should be that I forget to notice what I'm learning. I forget to notice like the ways that life is expanding all around me, and
Yes.
the wonderful miraculous things that happen when we let go and allow that process to take place.
Yes.
But if we get too locked in an idea of what it should be, then the energy it clamps up around
It
it.
can, exactly. Exactly. You really have to release
Yeah.
the expectations
Yeah.
and the plans.
Yeah. You know. And then you find all sorts of amazing things are happening without you planning them.
Exactly. Um, Kara was saying, she feels like she's stumbling through life,
Mm.
but not blindly. She's saying, but she's always worried about time running out.
Mm.
What do you think about that?
I get it. I get it. Absolutely. I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of light workers feel there's a clock ticking right now
Mm-hmm.
because things are fraught, and we
Yeah.
feel called to our work. We feel called to make a difference. We feel called to help,
Yeah.
but it's a balance because you also have to recognize that we're in 3D, time exists, it is linear, but it also doesn't. So when you look at the more expansive parts of yourself, you can find space to allow that one foot in front of the other to just take place. That's the linear part. That's the time in 3D. That's just
Yeah.
knowing that, like, you can tune in today and say, like, how do I put this foot in front of the other? How do I move forward? How do I move what I feel I'm meant to do forward?
Yeah.
And then how do I also let go and allow myself to be present in what I'm doing so that I can fully embody the light and
Yeah.
the flow of energy and the flow of
Mm-hmm.
love and the flow of presence? Because if you get too fixed in what is in that idea of time running out, or the really like precarious nature of life on earth right now,
Yeah.
or in fear or anxiety about, I mean, everything is really existential right now. I'm not um devaluing what people are afraid of or feeling anxious about. Things are pretty fraught,
Yes.
but it's an acknowledgement that yes, this is part of our existence right now, but also I'm going to take the time for peace in my moments as well. So, did that answer the question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. About being present, and knowing that things will unfold when
Yeah.
they're meant to. There's no time running out.
There isn't. It feels like there is,
It
but there.
feels like there is, but it isn't.
Yeah.
Because since my dad passed,
Mm.
I talked to him a lot, and I was talking
Mhm.
to him, in the nighttime a few weeks ago, and just telling him, I feel like time is running out to have
Mhm.
children and all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. And then he was like, time never truly runs out for that which is destined. And it just
Mm.
calmed
That's
my
beautiful.
spirit
Yeah.
because it doesn't. If it's meant to
Yeah.
happen, it is going to happen, and
Yeah.
it's going to happen in the moment that's meant to happen. So that just
Mhm.
really calmed my spirit. So that whole thing with time running out, especially when you're seeing the changes in your body and you're like, okay, is is
Yeah.
this menopause happening? That kind of thing. So you're always kind of freaked out.
Yeah. We were just
But
chatting about that right before we got on this call.
exactly, right? He said time never really runs out. So it
That's
just put
lovely.
me at peace. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
hmm Okay.
And you just never know the ways that your dreams are going to come true either. You
Oh,
just
oh yeah.
never know.
Hmm It's true.
Yeah.
It's
And you
true.
can look back at something that you wanted so badly to happen in a certain way and find that it happened in a totally different way, but it was exactly what you wanted and needed.
Exactly. 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 Um, RVS 37 is asking about the topic of walk-in souls.
Mm.
What are you getting from the light on that? I don't know much about that at all. I'll tune in and see if I get anything. But what are you getting on that, Jody?
I guess I'm curious about what they want to know. Um, it happens.
Is there anything specific, RV, about that
Yeah.
that you want us to talk about? Jody, why don't you talk and just say what came to you while RV is
Yeah.
clarifying? hmm What did you
Okay,
get?
let me see what the light will say about
Yes.
this.
Yes.
It happens. It's typically a soul contract that the being
Yes.
has with the person. And
Yes.
there are a variety of different ways it can happen.
hmm
It can be like a shared space.
Yes.
It can be something like, there's the full trance mediums who leave their body when they are allowing that work to be channeled through them.
hmm
It can be a more conscious co-creation between the two souls. So yeah, it just depends. There's a lot of different ways it can happen. And I get even there are some soul contracts where a being would move in and the other being would move on. So, I guess it's pretty limitless in terms of what can happen here. And it depends on the circumstance. Do you get anything different from that?
Yeah, and I think I can expand.
Yeah.
I never thought about the topic of trans mediumship falling in that category, but
Mm,
you're so right,
I think
right?
so. Yeah.
Because they're a walk-in, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And just like, people might have their consciousness step back and
Hmm.
allow the Holy Spirit or their guides to come through or
Yeah.
whatever. It is the same thing. But
Yeah.
when I tuned in about the walk-ins as he asked it, I saw someone change into a portal. They exploded into light.
Mm,
And just as you said, this person moving on, and then this other soul
hmm.
walking in.
Hmm.
But it was not the usual portal that I see when people transition. Usually I see a big white portal. This one was a big golden light. So
Mm,
there's some sort of, as you said, a karmic contract between them. Because
hmm.
gold always reminds me of soul star chakra.
Mm.
So it is, as you said, a contract between them, and it's meant to happen.
Mhm. Yeah.
hmm
And obviously that would be a different circumstance than an attachment or like a possession
Exactly.
or something like that. This would be
Exactly.
a being of light that comes through to do a work of light versus a being that's not of light coming through to manipulate
Correct.
or take over or anything like that. So that would be a distinction to be to be clear on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Positive and negative possession.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, let me see. I just saw a question. Fire Chica wanted to know why only certain people wake up and
Mm.
attain a connection to source while most of the collective is asleep. I don't know.
That's interesting because it is like a thing that if you look around and if everyone could just wake up, what a different place we'd be living, right? Um and I guess that's part of the evolution.
Mm-hmm.
But each individual soul is on its own journey throughout its whole existence, not
Yes,
just in this lifetime. So
correct.
each soul differentiation of light is learning on its own journey, on its own path. And there are
Yes.
times where that path, for the purpose of learning through the human experience,
Mm-hmm.
would, not be as aware. Um,
No.
and then there are a whole bunch of reasons. I mean, again, I'm getting into like they're every answer I'm getting today is pretty endless in its like scope of like we
Yes.
could just keep going further and further out into the cosmos with it. But there are also blockages that people have in terms of well like what I was saying earlier about my own past lives
Yeah.
blocking me from feeling like I could do this work because in that collection of past lives there were a variety of different life circumstances where I was involved in things that went wrong, where people were
Oh yeah.
harmed, uh,
Yes.
killed. There, big groups of people were like, didn't do okay. It didn't work out.
No.
So there can be things where people are, like have like a clamped up energy around them because of their own karmas.
Yes.
There are also circumstances where if you have like a blockage in your third eye or something, it could be because you abused an ability in a past life
Yes.
and needed to be tempered or learn your lesson, I guess, throughout other lifetimes. So I mean, we've all been through a huge scope of lifetimes in taking us through all sorts of different types of experiences and types of
Yes.
human interactions and things like that, and that all accumulates to kind of direct what we're going to do in this lifetime. So that's
Yeah.
what I got about that.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up, about us evolving within a particular lifetime, but evolving
Mm,
over a period of
yeah.
lifetimes. And, there are different, I don't want to say
Hmm.
ages of souls, but, different levels of awareness among souls.
Yeah,
So this might be a newer
definitely.
soul that has come through. So there's
Hmm.
all that's happening. And it reminds me of 2 years ago is when I started training to do Akashic journeys.
Hmm.
And I remember I got to a point where they said, okay, you've got to that point where you can see your twin flame movie. And I was like,
Mm.
twin flame movie, what the hell is that? And when I entered the Akasha, it was a long corridor, and then off to the side were a set of like literally like little cinemas. Okay. And
Yeah.
I entered the third one, and then I took my seat, and then they started playing this movie.
Yeah.
And they started showing me how all souls split. We were in basically a glass canister, and then the
Hmm.
glass canister started spinning like a centrifuge, and
Mm.
then the one soul became two,
Hmm.
and then we went off on different journeys.
Mm.
He had lifetimes as a stone. And Jody, listen, before I saw this, I never thought of us having lifetimes as
Yeah.
elements. Okay,
Yeah.
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
And I went off and had an experience as air, and then as a
Yeah.
tree, and then the evolution of it all, and a dog, a cat, and then coming into human form, and
Hmm.
then as human form, doing a lot of exploration. Let's just
Hmm.
say that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yep.
Doing a lot of exploration, a lot of that exploration, not high vibe,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's a continuous evolution until we get where we're at.
Yeah.
So they're just probably not meant to make up at this time. They're just not there yet. But maybe a couple lifetimes down the road, who knows what will happen. So,
Yeah.
as you said, everybody's on different levels of consciousness and evolution. So,
And for some reason, the way that this place that we're living in 3D is structured at
yes,
this time, that's a part of it. That duality is so a part of what we come in to learn and how we learn when we come into this place. So I think that's a part of it too, don't you? Like
yes,
just this is a unique experience that we get to have here.
yes,
And as souls, we come here to learn through this very specific, well, a whole bunch of very specific sets of circumstances that involve, you know, intense joy and intense suffering through the
yeah,
physical.
yeah,
And I think that keeping that in mind is a part of that answer too, because we don't get to determine how someone else learns or evolves, and we don't get to determine how the rest of the world is, coming along on on their own journey and their own expansion. We just have to focus within and do what we can and help where we can, and in whatever ways we're called to continue to raise the frequencies. And then I always get that when we raise the frequencies for ourselves, it raises the frequencies for the collective. So it creates the channels and
definitely.
pathways for other people to have more expansive and healing energetic experiences as well. But it won't necessarily look the way you think healing should look.
This is
A
true.
lot of times. A lot of times it doesn't look the way you think healing should look.
True. Um, with a couple questions coming through that we can go through before you deliver the message for the collective.
Yeah, this is fun
Um,
though.
I know, I like
Mhm.
it though. I like it. Okay, so Earthlings Unscripted, our favorite
Yeah.
username today. She says, Jody, how can we best deal with loving different healing experiences in the 3D and 5D? How can we reconcile them?
Hmm. Yeah, bear with me one moment.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting an energy without words. And it's sometimes hard to bring it all the way through so that it's because, all right, we'll just start here. It's starting in the heart chakra. And it's saying, I guess, if you all feel called, I guess we could go into this together. So,
Yeah, why not?
okay. So I'm going to close my eyes. I'm getting that we can visualize a brilliant violet ball of light in our heart chakra and just let that let it move. The way I'm seeing it is kind of gaseous and kind of liquid. It's like moving in a way that I guess kind of like the sun when you see those close-up pictures of the sun, but it's a
Mm,
bright, vibrant violet purple light.
mhm,
And it's saying that you can then see that purple light going out from your heart chakra
mhm,
to the heart chakra of the other person who's involved in this, and see that meeting up with a bright, golden and bright, brilliant white light within that person's heart chakra.
mhm,
And you can see that bright, brilliant white light coming back to you. And then you can allow space to grow between you two, knowing that there is a connection that is flowing, that is healing, that is bright and brilliant light, that it is clarifying, it is purifying, it is healing, and it is making whole any and everything that was broken, that was fractured, that was harmed, and that was in any way, shape, or form discordant between these two beings.
mhm,
And then you can visualize the whole, and allow that space to grow however far it needs to grow without hanging on emotionally to any distance that you see, knowing that connection of light through light and for light is there, is solid, is um, impenetrable in a way, but it is also allowing for the space to be in perfect harmony and perfect balance in the way it needs to be currently in this incarnation, in this life, and in the 3D aspect. And then it's saying to visualize this whole entire experience within an orb of bright, bright, prismatic, white, shining, exuberant light. So I'm not exactly sure how that answered the question, but that's what came.
It sounds like an integration, knowing and trusting that whatever healing you're doing in the 3D and the 5D, it's all going to be integrated anyway. So you don't have to do anything to reconcile.
Yeah, yeah.
Just allow it's happening organically. Oh, that's what I got from it
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah. And to know that no matter what the space that grows in 3D, because I think
Yes.
that's important to allow
Yeah.
and not get too attached to what we want to have happen and what we feel we need to have happen in 3D, when we
Hmm.
know that there is a greater healing work happening,
Yeah.
and to allow a certain flow to happen. If it pulls you closer, it pulls you closer. But if it needs to expand away, it needs to expand away. And that the flow of light that's taking place is in perfect working order. Humanly, that's not always easy, though.
Yes. Hmm. We have a question coming in for Lynn, and you know what? It touches on what you and I were getting intuitively when we were talking about
Uh huh.
this life, because she's asking if we come into contact with our TF in this lifetime, are we meant to be in union with them? And you go ahead, because that's part of the message I think we were supposed to deliver, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think, it's like not the message you ever want to deliver, because I get
No,
pretty pretty specifically and pretty strongly the answer is no. That union doesn't mean what we always want it to mean as human
being
beings having an emotional experience with that
yes,
connection. That sometimes those connections are meant for that 5D healing and for that connection. And I've had a few different uh like people come into my life, and there's been so much love and so much connection, and you think, well, yeah, this is what this is supposed to look like. It's destined. It's the thing that I want, and look at how much I love this person. And you know um and then it's not. And it was a little bit what we were talking about before, is that there is a nature to our karmic connections, our past life connections, what we've experienced before, and what we're just aware of in our heart of
hmm
having experienced before, that can make those energies really compelling, whether that's with your twin flame or with just someone that you feel so connected to. But that
hmm
doesn't always mean that that connection is meant for this lifetime either. So, you know, what I'm getting is the answer is yes and no, because there
yes. I
is.
was about to say, go
Yeah,
ahead.
and it's always yes and no, isn't it, these days? But there is, some aspect of union taking place, whether that happens in 3D or not.
Correct, and
And
that's what I go
yeah,
ahead, Jody. Go
well,
ahead.
just that's important to hold in your heart.
Yeah. Because what I'm getting is that you're meant to be in union, but what does union look like?
Mhm.
I think it's going to be different things for different people.
Yeah.
For some people, that union might just be sacred union, energetic,
Mhm.
5D.
Yeah.
For others, it may be a wonderful friendship.
Mhm.
For others, it may be a business partnership, or maybe you
Mhm.
guys are doing some sort of mission work together,
Mhm.
or just, allowing the high vibration of your love and your connection to shine through the individuals. And for
Yeah.
some, yes, and I think quite a number of people, it is going to be in the 3D. But
Yeah.
as we were talking about before, you just have to kind of allow
Mhm.
it to develop and to evolve and not hold on to one thing.
Yeah,
And maybe it will
absolutely.
be all of these things at
Yeah.
different points in time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also an important part to remember is that we have to allow others the space to have their, um, work out their karmas
Yes.
with other people, with other experiences, with their like life in general. And so, there are often times where we feel so connected to someone, but they are not meant for the same life we're meant for. Or
Yeah.
there's fundamental compatibility issues that have nothing to do with how much you love each other. But there's like this life is in 3D. There's certain things that don't work. Or, so there are endless numbers of things that people are out there to learn. And a lot of it has to do with karma. And a lot of it
Yeah.
has to do with healing things that have nothing to do with us.
Yeah. This is true.
I
This is
think that
true.
one of the things we talked about too in talking about about this issue is how hard this time of year can be for people,
Yeah.
because with the festive season, you want your family, well, I have some parts of my family that maybe I don't want close. But I have other parts that I really do. And
Oh my God.
I think we all have family. So, but you want the people who are close to your heart, close to your heart. You
Yes.
want to feel that sense of connection during the time of year when it's, like you see all sorts of things about how connected you should be to those people. And that can be really painful when you recognize that, there are people out there who you love in that way, but who aren't
Yeah.
in your 3D life in that way.
Yeah.
And that's part of our challenge as people who are raising our awareness and who are expanding our awareness into, more energetic um, acknowledgments and general paying attention to the energies as opposed to the circumstances, that you're going to know things that don't translate to how things are working out in 3D. And that can be confusing, and it can be, hard to manage. And so it takes, grounding, it takes presence, it takes allowing your heart to hold space for the emotional reality of that, but
Yeah.
also to let that emotional reality move and let it expand and contract and do whatever it needs to do to
To
move
do.
along your own healing. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. And I think it's important for people to acknowledge how far they have come on their
Mm,
journey in such
yes.
a short space of time, because sometimes it
Yeah.
can really get you down in the dumps. Why
Oh,
hasn't this thing happened already? Blah, 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 blah. But
yeah.
when you take stock of where you were and
Hmm.
how you deal with different things, especially perceived rejection, um,
Yeah.
and that kind of thing, you realize you have different tools, you have a different awareness now.
Hmm.
Because the first time, I had any kind of big rejection from my DM, you just
Hmm.
think that you would just shrivel up and die.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now he's done things that maybe even more traumatic than that when you look objectively. And now you're like,
Yeah.
yes, he's on his journey.
Yeah. Yep. And
You know?
also, I think it's important too to recognize that sometimes these people aren't at points where we would actually want them in our 3D lives.
Correct.
And that's a
Let's face
really,
it.
let's face it. And just be grateful sometimes that part of their journey is happening over there. And
Yeah,
that this part of our journey can happen here where, where there is some autonomy. Yeah.
definitely. And you can move to a space where you can have compassion for their karmic partner, whatever connected other that they might be with. Because for some of them, do you really want to deal with them, as you said, as they are now? These karmic partners are doing your man service.
Yeah.
And I think this year is the first time that I really sent my karmic partner. I'm gonna call this person my karmic partner because they're
Yeah.
my karmic partner too.
Yeah.
To send my karmic partner love and
Mm.
healing. She
Mhm.
wasn't well.
Mm.
Um, and that's a big shift for me.
Yeah.
3 years ago, I was like, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
fuck you, okay.
Yeah.
But you grow, you evolve, your heart
Yeah.
expands, and that compassion for people and seeing the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
before you're just seeing yourself and
Yeah.
what you need right now, right?
Yeah.
But then there's a bigger picture. There's karma releasing that's happening. There's soul evolutions that are happening. Yours, theirs.
Mm.
It's bigger than you,
Yeah.
okay?
So
And
much
that's not to
bigger.
say that your needs shouldn't be met or you're selfish for having those needs. It's just that it's happening within a context.
And I think also that if your needs aren't being met, I think it's okay to work on allowing space for a soulmate.
Yes,
And
it's
I
true.
think there is some pain involved in that, but I think it is, it has to be um, acknowledged that that is an okay desire to have.
Yes. Yeah.
It's it's not necessary for you to suffer and not have your needs met when you
But
can recognize and acknowledge that those needs won't be met in 3D, that that's
yes,
not where you're at.
exactly.
So I think that's okay.
Yes. I think once it's being done with awareness and
Mm.
once it's not being done from a place of fear or wounding.
Yeah.
Because, yeah,
Hmm.
exactly.
Hmm.
So I'm at the point now where I think if I ask for a soulmate, it would be because I have a greater awareness of, as I said, the bigger picture, what's happening,
Mm.
my and want my needs to be met. But a year ago, I asked for a soulmate and it was just from a place of fear. I was afraid that time would run out.
Yeah. And there's that time running out again, right?
There's
Where
a
it's
time
like,
running out again.
that's
It's a
not
time
the
running out
space.
again.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say definitely it is beautiful to make space for that soulmate, but also have an awareness. Where does that desire come from? Is it
Yeah.
coming from recognizing, okay, I have needs that need to be met and it's probably not going to be met in 3D? Or is it,
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid? I'm
Yeah.
afraid to be alone. I'm afraid that this won't happen. So there's an awareness that has to happen around that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And, the other thing that comes while you were saying that is that the calling in a soulmate then comes from a place of self-love as opposed
Yes.
to that fear. It's like
Yes.
when you have gone through um your healing, and I've seen these like memes out there that are like, um how does it go? Something to the effect of like, you don't have to be healed to be worthy of love. I
Right.
get that, and I get where that message is coming from. However, I think that a lot of times when people feel like they're running into repeated blockages in their
Yes.
romantic lives, it is because there's something within that is holding them back from being fulfilled in those partnerships, or from calling in a partner who would fulfill them in a holistic and healed way.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
until you work on that within, and until you have a solid foundation of self love, we magnetize the people who bring us greater awareness of our healing. Oh, my marriage, let me tell you guys. Whew. There was like, I love my ex-husband. I love him, but I brought someone into my life who showed me all sorts of things that I needed to heal. And it was a a pretty dynamic lesson, let me tell you. Like, maybe dynamic, maybe I'm confusing that with dynamite. But
Oh
it's like,
my
I
gosh.
was not coming from a place of self-love. I was very young at the time too, and I think that happens. I think we magnetize people who are going to show us what we need to heal. So I think that's something to be said too. It's like, of course, you're always worthy of love, no matter where you're at in your healing journey. That is true, but it has to begin with self.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. There's a question that came through, and that's also a question of mine that I have sometimes when I think
Mm,
about calling a soulmate, that kind of thing.
mm,
Um, can we really? I think we can be happy, definitely. But can we really be happy and settle with the soulmate, with our twin playing in our head, in our dreams, um, probably hugging us up on the bed at night, and
mm.
your focus being, at least especially internally, on them? And then is this kind of like a micro cheating kind of thing, a micro cheating kind of situation where your awareness, your full awareness, your full
Yeah.
presence is not with the person that you're with, but you're having this other relationship in the
Yeah.
5D.
I think that has to be case by case,
Yeah.
because, it's like, what kind of partnership are you going to have with this soulmate? Are you
Yes.
going to acknowledge that there is another being out there that you have this connection to? That
Yeah.
occasionally this is going to take place in an energetic way where you're going to be drawn into their healing,
Yes.
and that's going to exist.
Hmm.
And so I think, and I get that. I get how that is important. Um but I am getting that part of what has to take place is your full acknowledgement of what it is you really want. So are you
Hmm.
going to be with someone while still hoping your twin comes along in 3D?
Hmm.
That's a tricky thing to navigate.
Yeah.
And it is case by case. And I get that it would depend on what partner you have, whether or not that is that person going to just know that this other person is a part of you?
Is out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that there's going to be a connection that is not the same as the one that you share, but the one that you share with that person is of equal importance to you in the ways of life too, you
Yeah.
know, um, because that what I'm getting is it can be done, but it has to be done with your own integrity and
Yes,
your own
same
sense of
message.
inner guidance.
Yeah,
And it all depends on um, where you're at as an individual. So it's a deep inner work in terms of assessing truly, in with brutal honesty, what it is you're hoping for. Are you calling in someone to fill a space until your twin
yes,
comes along? Because that's not really calling in a soulmate. That could create more
no,
karma.
exactly.
Or are you
Which is
calling in
exactly what someone. Go
yeah,
ahead.
are you calling in a life partner who you are going to commit to in
Yes,
whatever way, while also acknowledging that this is happening over here as well? I don't
yeah.
know. It all depends. And, there's all sorts of relationships that can be had between people.
It's. I think so too. But as you said, I think the key is integrity,
Hmm.
and I'm not sure if any kind of soulmate relationship, committed love relationship, romantic relationship will survive if you're not open about your connection with your twin, your connected other. I think this person, they may need to know to
I think
really
so too.
understand
Yeah.
because it's like a lie of omission, isn't it?
Yeah. And
Right?
especially if you have any kind of romantic, feelings and interactions, even
Yes.
energetic with your twin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd have to let your partner know.
I think so. Yeah.
I think so too.
Especially because this is a person, if this is a soulmate, this is a person you love deeply. This is a
Yes.
person that you have a deep soul connection to. This is someone you've also spent lifetimes with. This is
Yes.
someone who you have the good karma with. You don't want to create the bad karma, you know? So,
Yes.
what respect do you owe that person, and what respect do you want back in return from that person?
There you go.
And that's
Exactly.
that's the scales that you can weigh it on, I think.
Yeah. Because there's a reader on YouTube who chose a soulmate.
Mm,
And she would come on and she's happy that she chose a soulmate, la 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 la. La. But her energy, the energy that you feel off of her, and
mm,
sometimes the things that she says, you realize she's not with her soulmate at all.
that's so hard.
She, yeah,
Yeah,
she's with her twin.
yeah.
And the soulmate has just facilitated her having children,
Mm,
and having a home.
mm,
But she's not with her soulmate. And, you know, as that's why I said it has to happen with integrity
yeah,
because you really wouldn't want to be in that position where you are physically with someone, but energetically they are not there. They've checked out.
yeah. That would hurt so bad. Yeah.
It would hurt.
And you don't want to cause someone you love that kind of pain either.
No,
Yeah.
no. And it makes me have a lot of compassion for or connected other or divine masculine, whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
because they're living that experience right now,
Mhm.
right? And we say, they're cowards, whatever it is, but to love and to love someone deeply or to think you love someone deeply or whatever's happening,
Yeah.
but yet there's this other person who's in your head, in your dreams, in your thoughts, and you magnetize towards them, and even though you shouldn't, you reach out, and
Yeah.
it must be torture.
Yeah. 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 And I think so much of it comes from what do you expect? What do you expect from that connection?
Yeah,
Is it for
yeah,
healing or is it for satisfaction in 3D?
yes,
And I think that's something we all have to look at too, is that, what it am I really praying for the best and highest good of us both?
yes,
Am I really asking for the most healing to be brought through in this lifetime?
yes, yeah,
And if you look at the karmic connections that your twins might be in,
hmm,
those are probably the most healing experiences they could be having right now.
correct. Hmm.
So if
Hmm.
that's in their best and highest good, that's in your best and highest good as
That's good.
well.
Correct. Exactly.
It's it causes a lot of pain at times, but there's that ability to rise up above and look at the energy of it. and look at
Mm-hmm.
what the connection is really for. And
Yeah.
the connection is really for the ultimate healing of both.
Hmm. This is true.
Yeah.
Hmm. So much to think about, you know. It's a very complicated thing.
It's a very complicated thing. And each person, I I I believe strongly that these connections are engineered perfectly to bring each person into greater and higher awareness of their own healing and their
Yeah.
own inner journey. So I can't answer for you and you can't
Hmm.
answer for me what what almost anything. We can give guidance, we can tell what we get, we can open channels for, greater awareness to flow through.
Yeah.
However, this is a very individuated journey for each and every person.
Yes. Yeah.
And it does frustratingly come with a lack of clarity, but also the challenge being to increase your own inner guidance. Like,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
is that? How do those go hand in hand? But they do. It's saying,
And I when we start talking about integrity,
mm,
like I really have so much questions about myself and
mm,
how I'm conducting my connection because I don't think my twin is allowed to talk to me.
mm-hmm,
And yet
yeah,
we do talk.
mm,
And we have boundaries around what we speak about
sure,
for the sake of integrity.
yeah,
But is the fact that I, knowing that he's not meant to talk to me, and him knowing he's not meant to talk to me, you know, is there already a transgression of boundaries there?
mm,
And am I being my higher self for still allowing that to happen? You know?
yeah. And what I get is that's moment to moment to moment. There's no,
Yeah.
there's no across the board answer with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but it is hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Kara's asking, what if you're the one holding yourself back in the TF connection,
Mm.
paralyzed by the fear of the unknown? What do you mean by holding yourself back exactly, Kara? Let's see what she says.
Well, and I'll just say too, what I'm getting up front
Yeah, go
is,
ahead.
why are
Yeah.
you holding yourself back? And that's the opening to whatever you need to heal. Where is the
Hmm.
fear coming from?
Yeah.
And then that's, where is the fear coming from is such a great question to begin any kind of healing journey. What am I actually afraid of?
Yes.
But did she clarify?
Not yet.
Okay. Yeah.
Not yet. Okay, wait. So I'm in a relationship with a soulmate, but still think of my DM constantly, and he's always reaching out with advice for my growth.
Mm.
I kind of feel this question actually,
Mm-hmm.
because I find myself, caught up in that too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's very difficult to open up yourself knowing that there's someone else in the mix, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, we're programmed for the love connection, right?
Yeah.
We're,
Yeah.
we're programmed for the love connection.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, so how far do I go? Knowing that this person has someone else, or knowing that you have someone else, do I
Mm-hmm.
open up myself to this whole experience? And what is this experience actually? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Where is this meant to go? Am I going to get hurt? Am I going to get rejected? Am I going to be the one that's left, you know,
Yeah.
languishing?
Yeah.
There's just so many things that come up. How do I allow myself to love my twin
Mm.
unrestrictedly, without condition, and yet not be hurt by
Yeah.
just being left behind? I feel like being left behind, but I know that's a past life thing also. So,
Well, yeah, absolutely. But it is also, like an inner child thing as well. So
mm,
I get right now that one of the things that can really clarify the energy, because the energy has to be cleared up, and then the answers can present themselves. But while the energy is so tumultuous, it's impossible to get that clarity. So, one of the
mm-hmm,
things that I've done at times with different relationships when they were compelling and
mm-hmm,
fraught was I would ask the light to release in light and love
mm-hmm.
that person and only allow the connections that were in our best and highest good to remain.
Right.
So, that very simple prayer and intention can do a lot towards purifying the energies. And
Yes.
not, I don't say purify it with any kind of judgment. I mean, like, if you take, water that has sediment in it, and it's all shook up and there's just like a cloudy, you can't see through the water. You have to get the sediment out, and then the water will be clear again. That's what you're
Yeah.
doing to the energy without judgment of the sediment. There's nothing, it just is there. It's there because it's the nature of, like, you scooped it out of the lake and whatever. But you can't judge your feelings, but you do need to create this space to clear the energy of the attachments and the desires, so that you know actually what's going on with as much clarity as you can possibly get. And that is an ever
Mm-hmm.
expanding moment to moment process as well. And that's why it was saying that might be moment to moment. So in one circumstance, you might be communicating with someone who, you don't feel like it's respecting boundaries that need to exist. But then another time they might reach out and you understand that the energy is clear and you see that it's for the healing. Does that make sense, or does that make it
Yes.
murkier?
No, it didn't. It made
Okay.
sense.
So that simple intention of only allowing what's in the best and highest good to remain
Mm-hmm.
and releasing in light and love any and everything else,
Yes.
and really meaning it too when you say it,
Yeah.
because it can be hard to really mean it.
Yes.
um I had an experience years and years ago with someone who's a soulmate, but who was not meant to be my soulmate in this lifetime,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a compelling connection, and it was someone who I thought about all the time, right? And so I had to do that every single time I thought of that person. Every single time I thought of them. And I've actually done it recently too with, like, another another situation where I was having a really strong emotional reaction to something that was sort of out of um out of proportion with what was happening. I had decided to let something go but wasn't really letting it go. So
Yes.
any of these times where the energy is very murky, and where the water has a lot of sediment in it, we
Mm-hmm.
can go back to this very simple intention and prayer to release, and then only allow what's in the best and highest good, and it will do a lot of the work for you if you really mean it.
Yes. This is very similar to what I've been saying to myself as well,
Hmm.
that I'm choosing my highest timeline and whatever has to happen for my highest evolution to be for me to be my highest self.
Yeah.
The first time I said it, I don't think I meant it,
Well,
to be honest.
yeah,
I
that, yeah,
don't. I
honesty is
didn't.
important. Yeah.
Yes. I don't think I meant it.
Yeah.
But I think the more I say it, is the more I mean it, because
Hmm.
it takes a lot of the guesswork out of what is happening, quite
Yeah.
frankly, right?
Yeah.
It's like the divine clears a path for you, and then,
Hmm.
you see the path ahead, right? You don't have to do
Yeah.
too much guesswork and be all up in your head trying to
Hmm.
control what's happening.
Hmm.
Just
Yeah.
allow.
Yeah, and I feel like anytime we try and plan too much,
Hmm.
it
Exactly.
just, I mean, what are we planning? What are we actually planning beyond this moment? Does it does it actually exist?
Yes. Hmm.
So, yeah, I think it's important to have, not to diminish the importance of what we desire to bring
Yes.
through for ourselves into this world, and what we desire, like what we wish to manifest for our best and highest good. But also to recognize that we exist here right now, and that any process of planning for the future and bringing things through for the future, it is out of alignment with our current existence. And that's where
Yeah.
what you said about your highest timeline, I mean, that's profound. That is a really big energy.
Yes. And it's kind of scary, but it felt right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that
It felt right.
that
Mm.
is true for, it's hard with the connection to
Yeah.
remember that we are also differentiated beings having different experiences,
Yes.
and that we are allowed to evolve and hold space for, um, the highest experience of me as a differentiated being.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
actually the most healing thing we can do for the collective and for the twin as well.
It's true. Exactly. Exactly. Jody, are you getting anything for the year ahead? I mean, we said we'll be on just for an hour, but this is just getting so enjoyable.
Yeah, yeah. It does, doesn't it?
Yes. Are you
um
getting anything from the light from the year ahead?
yeah, it's interesting because I think as we've been talking,
A lot
there's
has
a
come out,
certain
right?
there is, and I feel everyone has an emotional, not everyone, but there is a definite emotional heaviness that is present for all of us right now.
Yeah.
And I think some of what we've been talking about has churned up some of those waters, and there
Yes.
is a sense of like, um, uncertainty,
Yeah.
um, in everything that exists right
Yeah.
now. So it's saying, in part, a lot of that has happened because that is our year ahead. Not that it's going to be all heavy and sad,
No.
but that there is good news within it, but there is also an acknowledgement that what we're experiencing collectively on planet Earth right now is really, really heavy. And the ways that we manage our own processing of that are so vitally important. And if you tend to set your head intentions, it's saying if you can set the intention to allow space for whatever experiences you have to have around that heaviness and around processing and allowing yourself to have an emotional experience about that heaviness, while
Mm,
also maintaining your balance and understanding that this too shall pass,
yes.
that there is a purpose to allowing that movement, that it's not to get stuck in it, but it is to ascend, that it is to rise up above it, that when we're made aware of our own emotions and our own really complicated reactions to that heaviness that we experience
Yes.
in the world with other people, it is for the purpose of us to uproot the old and no longer necessary belief systems, the old energies that no longer belong there. There
Yes.
is a transmutation that is taking place, and the flexibility of the dimensional aspects right now, which I think the Twin Flame Collective is hyper aware of,
Hmm.
is allowing a lot of shit through for
Hmm.
us who are more aware. Like, you're gonna have to deal with some stuff that you might not want to deal with. You're gonna have to deal with the fluctuations that are gonna be inconvenient, but it is a practice, and there is something very important about maintaining your awareness, maintaining your grounding, and
Yeah.
recognizing that each and every opportunity for that transcendence is going to provide you with more access to light, to awareness, to the tools you
Yes.
need to continue to do that work. So, the more you balance for yourself individually, the more you
Yes.
work on your healing, the more that you become aware of your emotional reactions and uproot what you can of them to truly look at it with that brutal honesty and with that awareness and that really looking, asking these tricky questions. We've been asking some really tricky questions and we've been going into some very gray, nuanced energies that aren't yes or no. They're really, really sticky energies. But being willing
Mhm.
to look at the nuance, being willing to look at those emotions as they come up and say, you know what, this isn't just one thing or the other. This isn't just yes or no. It's going to
No.
be some sort of version of understanding moment to moment that it's going to change and clarify and process, and the more you do that individually, the more that you're going to hold a stable and steady space, and the more that space will expand out from you and be a stable and steady space for those around you, including your twin, but also for
Mhm.
your immediate family, for your
Yes.
neighborhood, for your,
Yes.
the collective peace that you're holding, the space you hold in this world, for maybe any animal friends you have or any nature spirits that you know
Mhm.
that you work with, or any celestial beings that you work with. That the more that we bring that awareness through, the more we don't fall asleep on the job and just let our um, it's not just the emotions, it's the mental as well, because mine is punishing at times, brutal
Yes.
and punishing. My mind goes to places that I can't believe it takes me, and I can't fall asleep on the job. I have to continuously be aware that that's what it's doing and not let it take over. So the same is true for our emotional experience. It's like we can have those emotions. We can recognize that our mental processing isn't always balanced,
Yes.
but we need to continuously bring our awareness as much as we can and as quickly as we can into the mix. So
Yes.
here's my example from the other day. I've been working on a crochet project. It's something I've never done before, and I messed it up really bad and had to undo 3 days of work, and I cried my eyes out, and I had just
Oh.
like such an emotional reaction. I was just like, oh, like just and just shitty. Like I was just like, ugh, 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 like when you're just so frustrated and you're disappointed and
Yes.
you just can't help but be shitty. And I watched the whole thing take place, and I was like, I do so much work on myself. I spend so much of my energy trying to clarify like my emotions and my reactions, and I am fully aware that I'm on a runaway train right now, but I had to let it go. I had to let it go. I was so frustrated and I was so human. And I also watched it happen. And I also maintained my awareness. And because I did that, I snapped out of it much more quickly than I would have otherwise. Because I could have let that ruin my whole day. It ruined probably 15 minutes of my day, maybe a half hour. And then I had to
Yes.
apologize to my mom, who was there for the whole thing, and be like, sorry about that. That was a bit much, mom. But it was like it by by watching it, I didn't I didn't fall asleep on the job. I let
Yeah.
myself be human, but I also
Yeah.
maintained my awareness. That's the most important thing we can do this year, because this year is going to continue to be complicated. I wish that I was like getting some sense that like, oh, you know, January 1st is going to come along, and pandemics will be over, and there won't be any more wildfires. We won't have another tornado like we had here in the States the other day. It's like, but
Mhm.
I don't get that we're suddenly going to wake up in utopia.
No.
So how do we participate in our energetic global community in ways that are more healing, in ways that are uplifting, in
Yes.
ways that help support one another, in ways that remind one another of what we're doing, why we're here, that we are called to jobs. We didn't come here because it's hopeless. We didn't come here because we're just meant to suffer and that there's no ascension taking place. We're here because we're doing jobs, and we were called here to do jobs. And so the more awareness we maintain through the shitty things that happen,
Yes.
the better able we are to hold that space. And it all begins with our inner work. So, do you see how the energy is going, like it's going within and into our
Mm-hmm.
own interpersonal awareness, and then it's going out into our awareness of the world, and it's coming back in? It's like a infinity symbol. It keeps flowing. So, allowing that flow to take place. Some of these things are going to take you into your own deepest inner work. And some of them
Yes.
are going to take you into an awareness of the world and your place in the world and how you participate in the healing of the world. And allowing that flow is what is needed right now in light workers everywhere. So if you visualize that infinity symbol for the next year and you recognize, like, okay, where am I on that infinity symbol? Am I right here in the depth of my shadow work, really looking at everything that I need to bring out and everything I need to shine light into, and every dark corner and crevice that I possibly can bring light to, so that I have as much clarity as I possibly can get for myself and my healing?
Yes.
Am I really truly letting go of everything that is not in my best and highest good? Or are there elements of that I'm hanging on to? And what are those elements and why am I hanging on to them? What is that fear? Why am I hanging on to it? So, you're over here on the edge of that infinity symbol, and then you cycle back around and through, and you become aware of, like, whatever it is on this edge, um whatever calls to you about this world. For me, because of the connection with nature, it is so much about what's happening on the planet and what's happening with fires and tornadoes and floods and things that are way out of balance in the nature realms, because of human stuff, right? So
Yes.
that's where I go over here, and I think, like, okay, how can we help over here? But you're going to be, and right in the middle, maybe you're just like watching TV in balance, or like having a good meal with, your family, or just like existing, just it doesn't always have to be looking into the deepest shadows of either the world or yourself. You're going to be on that trajectory all the time, but allowing the movement is what's important. And not getting stuck either in, okay, so maybe when you're in the middle and you don't want to look too deeply into your own inner stuff, and you don't want to look too deeply at the things that need to be healed in the world, but not
Yes.
getting stuck there either. Knowing that you can maintain a certain balance of letting that flow take place, so that you're constantly in motion, and that motion is constantly raising the frequencies for yourself, for others, for the world. And it's saying that awareness will be so vitally important going forward.
Yes. Definitely. I feel that, Jody.
Yeah.
Hmm. And I think there are going to be many persons that will come in and out of our life, maybe even for a
Mm.
second. That's an
Yeah.
opportunity for healing.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you brought up that topic of awareness. And I don't know why the light wanted me to share, but now I know, right?
Yeah.
So, ever since November started, I don't know what the hell was going on. I had this big quarrel with my neighbor upstairs. This
Mm.
neighbor just moved in,
Yeah.
and at 11 in the night, he was dragging some kind of big, maybe dresser across and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. And I kept saying to myself, at any point in time, he's going to stop. I'm going to be able to sleep. And it didn't happen. So I was so pissed off. I went up there and I told him off,
Yeah.
and he kind of, kept it down. And then
Yeah.
I got a new neighbor next door. And this guy liked to come outside my apartment door, and he would sit there and smoke and play loud music and talk very loudly. And then I
Oh.
went out there, and of course I told him off. And then I was like, hold up, wait, hold up one moment.
Yeah.
Something is happening here. It cannot be that I've lived here for 4 years and I've had absolutely no issues with my neighbors. And
Yeah.
within the space of a week, I have issues with two of my neighbors who are masculine.
Yeah.
Something's happening. They're reflecting to me a
Mm.
wounded part of myself.
Yeah.
And because I saw them as masculine, I said, they're reflecting to me my wounded masculine.
Mm.
And that's when I started digging deep
Mm-hmm.
and trying to see within myself the times that I may have been selfish, or the times I
Mm.
wanted to control others to make me feel comfortable. And then
Mm.
when on this whole journey, I said, okay, well, How do I fix that? Well, I have to send my inner masculine love, which I've been doing. And then I said, what about
Beautiful.
if I sent those masculines love? So I
Yeah.
started sending love, heart energy
Yeah.
to my two neighbors.
Yeah.
Do you know the guy stopped doing that crap upstairs? And the guy next door, I don't even, as far as I'm concerned, maybe he moved up because I don't see or hear him again. And then I was like, wait a minute. Is that how it works?
Yeah.
That I can just spread love, change my energy,
Yeah.
and then bam, everything harmonizes? And then I was like, that is very powerful.
Mm.
So I've been seeing everybody that I meet or anybody that I have some kind of confrontation with, or
Yeah.
just as someone that is mirroring back to me part of myself. So I give myself love and healing, and then I also send it to them. And gradually, just things just start to harmonize. I was
That's
like, this
beautiful.
is what light workers are meant to do.
Yeah.
This is interesting. So
Yeah.
I'm seeing everybody as an opportunity for healing and
Mm-hmm.
for harmonization.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so interesting, isn't it? Because the work of light isn't always like so specific. I think also of my great uncle, and I got to be with him at the end of his life. He was going
Yeah.
through cancer treatment, so we were going to the
Hmm.
cancer center. This man was in agony, and yet he was like, he was one of those people who loved other people. He loved connecting with
Yeah.
other people. So even if he was just going to meet them once, he was going to make note of their name. He was going to call them by their name. He was going to like ask them about themselves and really show them that he saw them as a human being. And I don't think it was ever a conscious choice in him. It was just how he went about his life. But traveling through life with him in that way was so beautiful and revealing in terms of what like a genuine heart quality coming from someone who means well does to the energy. And he wasn't a saint, he was a human being. He had conflicts with other people too, and he had some
Yes.
really specific he was bold. He was a Pisces, so he was just like he just like yeah, he was just great. But he loved people. He loved deeply. He
Yeah.
showed love. And that does change things. It really does. And even if it's even if changing your energy causes a reaction that isn't necessarily pleasant in someone else,
Hmm.
um I get that more often than not that person will remove themselves from the situation,
Hmm.
as opposed to, it doesn't always have to be about a fight. Sometimes it can just
Yeah.
be about holding your space in love and light. And then the energies that aren't harmonious with that aren't going to be there. They're not going to want to be there.
No. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else coming through? If not, then
Mm,
we can sign off unless there's another question or anything like that.
yeah. Let's see if there's any questions because that's what I got.
Yeah. Guys, are there any other questions before we sign off?
One thing as we wait to see if anything
Yeah,
comes in, it's
definitely.
just saying to go gently, that
Hmm.
this time and space, this work is no light thing. It is heavy. It
Yeah.
is something that is, these connections are designed specifically and exactly to bring you into awareness of what you need to heal as well. It can
Yes.
sometimes be easy to look at the other person and say, "Oh God, look at all they need to heal." But the
Yes.
there's a reason you're in it too. And that reason is to look in the mirror with, the brightest light possible shining on you, to look at everything that you need to heal. And that is no small thing.
To
It
do.
is so it does so go gently. Go gently as you traverse this journey of your own, as you traverse this world. Go gently and with so much care for your own well being, That's really important to be mindful of right now too, and to take whatever space you need for healing around anything and everything. So if it's like, you know, um, well, if it's we were talking, I think before we got on the call about like the different aspects, like talk therapy for your psychological healing, the more spiritual work for all that comes up in past life stuff for that part. Take whatever space you need
Hmm.
to address these things that are coming up, and allow yourself to be gentle and kind to yourself around them. It's not about lacking accountability, because in looking, you're being accountable. It's about also recognizing yourself as human and holding space for compassion and forgiveness for yourself as well. So it's
Yes,
saying that's really important going forward for this coming year too, because as stuff comes up, we have to be compassionate with ourselves. We have to recognize that we're doing our best and also challenge ourselves to expand at the same time, and have that
yes,
balance that we're in this space we're in now, and we're expanding beyond it simultaneously.
exactly. And that's why I don't really resonate with when people start talking about the empath narcissist paradigm, because I
Mm,
feel like it limits the so-called both people who have been labeled, right? It
yeah.
limits so-called empaths because we think, okay, well, it is not me, it is them, therefore I don't have any work to do.
Hmm.
And again, the narcissist, we call the narcissist, it's not me, it's them. So it's
Yeah.
always them. And once you're projecting that outward, then there's no inner work to be done, is it? Because it's always the other person's problem, right?
Yes.
But if we see everyone as an opportunity for healing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that we've attracted them into our life because there's something within us
Yeah.
that needs to be healed,
Yeah.
then I think we'd be much better off for it. But from the time we put the labels, then we limit ourselves and we also limit them.
Yeah, and I think that is such a good point, because we can get locked into this idea that, you know, um, that we're the hero and we've been wronged or whatever and other.
Yes.
And I have, and there's so many things in that, is like I get a lot of people who present as narcissists
Yes.
are acting out of their own trauma. That a lot of
Simple.
people are having, they pick up these coping mechanisms, or these trauma responses that are
Hmm.
very, very toxic and very, very
Hmm.
unhealed. Now, I do also know some full-blown narcissists, and that is a totally different thing, and that
Different thing,
is,
yes.
but there's a huge spectrum of what's happening there, and each person needs to be sort of looked at individually. And the same is true, like you said, for empaths. Empaths aren't just like necessarily, it's an energetic working of your systems. It's not
Hmm.
like a um it doesn't, it's not a good bad thing. It's not like empath good, well, you know, you get what I'm saying, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah, getting into like archetypical uh determinations of what any of that means. I get what you're saying.
Yes.
Like it just, it often doesn't hold as much of a structure as people would like it to.
Yes. I agree. Someone was asking, which falls right into your alley. How do we work with elementals on the twin
Mm,
flame journey?
carefully, and that's what came ultimately, and with that super high level of integrity. So many of us have dabbled in things that were not in keeping with that integrity in past lives.
Hmm.
And this is a great opportunity for healing some of those things, because in some of my past lives I participated in manipulating and enslaving energies and elements to do things, right? So
Yes.
now it is my calling, to help heal those rifts, because what I get is that we can work co-creatively with them. So it's not about forcing anything into your will. It's
Yeah.
not about manipulating the elements to your will. It's
Yes.
about meeting up and saying, I'm the one in 3D here, so I have certain tools here. You're the one that's not in 3D, so you have certain tools here. You have certain influence over some things in 3D. I have certain influence over some things in the energetics.
Mm-hmm.
How do we best, well, it is, how do we work in the best and highest good of us both? How do we co-create together and allow for, the beauty and wonder of what that connection can bring to
Yeah.
unfold? So that's how I work here, and that feels very, very important given my trajectory from all my past lives of how I arrived here, is that
Mm-hmm.
those rifts need to be healed from some of that ceremonial work in different past lives that
Yes.
was not in keeping with light, was not in integrity, and really did harm to beings that you know that were used. So we can embrace our accountability now in working with them and
Mm-hmm.
heal a lot of things. So, like in the fairy realm, there are some fairies that really don't like humans, and they remind me that there are reasons why they really don't like humans.
Yes.
So what can we do to, create a better, more healed space for that work to take place? We can
Mm-hmm.
do it in co-creation as opposed to in any kind of um, manipulation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, Jody, I think this is it.
I'm so glad. This has been such a lovely, and I
I
hope
know.
that people take some space for their hearts, because I think we did get into some depths that, ooh, they just like get you right there, don't they?
Yes. Yep.
But what's new on this journey, right? It's like,
Exactly.
well, yeah, that's it. That's part of it.
Yeah. So, guys, thank you so much for your lovely energy. You guys always welcome Jody and show Jody so much love.
I love this. It's been so
It's been
nice.
so
Thank you, you guys.
amazing. And I was feeling so tired before we came on,
Mm.
but it just seemed to flow and it was just so beautiful.
Yeah.
So, guys, thank you so much for that. And Jody, I'd love to have you back on some other time because it's just so many different things to unpack. I mean, we just touched on different topics, but there's always more that the light has to share.
Yes, and I'd love to come back anytime. This is so much fun. I'm just so grateful to you all for holding this space and being such a beautiful community.
Aw. Ali Angel, thank you for doing a wonderful job as usual.
Yes.
I see you've been circulating Jody's channel, her Instagram links, everything.
Thank
So
you.
thank you so much for that.
I'm so
Okay.
appreciative.
All right, guys. All our love. Take care, okay?
Take care, everyone.
Bye.